Game week 33 is here, so it's time to lock in those FPL teams. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and it is bench boost time finally for me. So I'm going to show you my bench boost team and how we're going to improve a final few tweaks for the team ahead of the big double game week 33. Let's get going. So as always, we have to start off by talking about the scores from the previous week, and I don't want to, but I will. We kind of have to do this. Yeah, another catastrophic week, and I'm not really sure what went wrong, other than not having Jacob Murphy. Now, I'm sure, we can have a long conversation about how I probably should have gone for Jacob Murphy over the likes of a Trippier or a Burn somewhere in my team, and that would have given me a lot more points on my wild card over the last 2 game weeks. But I wanted to take a little risk here and try and play against the crowd a little bit by going for the double at Newcastle defense. And, in game week 32, that actually didn't look too bad, but Murphy has had an absolute freak couple of game weeks, crazy scores, and I do feel a little bit, I don't know, maybe it's a little unfair that the swing was quite this big, because going at these couple of game weeks, it didn't seem like the swing was going to be this enormous in terms of the difference between the points. But hey, it's one of those things, guys, and even though my rank is just in the toilet right now, hopefully I'm still able to help you guys a little bit with your teams with some good and interesting advice. But yeah, aside from not owning Murphy and maybe the fact that I didn't have a chip to use in game week 32, a lot of people on bench boost, triple captain, maybe even assistant manager had nothing active, so maybe that also impacted my points and therefore rank a little bit. But yeah, it seems super harsh, man, to go from like 250k to 383k in the space of 2 game weeks after wildcarding. I'm honestly shocked that this has happened, because I think my team is kind of good. I like my team quite a lot. I have a good strategy. I don't know. One of those things, I guess, guys. FPL is a crazy game, and yeah, let's just... I don't want to make excuses. I just want to kind of get on with this season. This season is probably a write-off for me at this point. I'll just keep trying to play some smart differentials, see what can happen, maybe have a bit of fun with it, and yeah, get through the rest of the season, hopefully in one piece. But surely things can't get any worse than here. Famous last words, but chips to use in both game week 33 and 34 may be able to improve the situation a little bit, start to salvage things, but who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and find out, because this is shocking, isn't it, guys? I can't even lie to you guys. It is shocking. So let's move on into game week 33. I do have 2 free transfers, and the bench boost is active as well. So there is opportunities to claw something back this week. How much? I don't exactly know. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But let's start off in goal. We have got Raya against Ipswich in Crystal Palace. So I've been waiting for this double game week for him. And I think Arsenal's chances of clean sheets are going to be higher than anyone else in the Premier League across this double game week. A nice fixture against Ipswich, of course. But even this Crystal Palace fixture is looking better and better by the day, as they are not really performing up to standard in recent game weeks. We're doubled up with Saliba in defence as well here, which is pretty nice to have that double Arsenal defence. I'm just hoping they can get back to clean sheets, because I feel like they have been unfortunate not to keep many recently. Let's just have a look here on screen, guys, of the recent expected goals conceded for Arsenal. Obviously no clean sheets in the last 3 game weeks, but as you can see, against Brentford, just 0.24 expected goals against. Against Everton, a little bit higher, but that was of course because of that incredibly dodgy penalty that Arsenal faced against Everton, which is quite strange. But again, that has really inflated the expected goals conceded stat for that game week. The weeks before that, Fulham, Chelsea, under 1 goal, a little bit more against Man United, and then again, well under 1 expected goals conceded against Forest. So it's very clear to see that Arsenal are not really facing many big chances. They are not conceding too many chances, and therefore, it should be that Arsenal keep clean sheets. The stats really do suggest that this is a huge opportunity for clean sheets. We can look at the past results. If we look at the data, it looks positive. If we look at the outcomes, maybe not so much. But I don't want to really use outcome bias to make future decisions, and I still believe that double Arsenal defence is going to be the way forward for this game week. The next defender we have is Daniel Munoz, who has had an absolute shocker of game week 32. How can you have a double game week, play both games to full games, and still end up with -1 point? That is absolutely wild. How many goals were conceded by the likes of Crystal Palace over that double? It's quite remarkable. But against Bournemouth, there is going to be a new opportunity. Bournemouth have been struggling a little bit recently, and there could potentially be a clean sheet here, although I'm not super hopeful, if I'm honest. And if it wasn't for Munoz's attacking threat, I would worry a little bit more about this double game week and actually think he was a pretty poor double game week player. But we know Munoz does have that attacking threat, and maybe that can count for something against these two high lines of Bournemouth and Arsenal. Maybe taking advantage of some advanced wing play that he has. For the record, by the way, guys, against Newcastle last night, a really poor performance by Crystal Palace. But among all of the Crystal Palace players, I thought Munoz didn't really do too much wrong in that game. So I don't think he is at any risk of being dropped or anything like that. And the final defender here is Kieran Trippier, who is facing a difficult game against Aston Villa. And I know a lot of people will be saying, you know, Newcastle are in great form, and I truly believe they are as well. They are, I believe, 5 games wins in a row, which is absolutely incredible stuff. Really, really impressive. But the problem is they're facing Aston Villa away. Now, let's have a look at the Premier League table right now, and you can see there are just 5 points separating Newcastle and Aston Villa. And whilst Newcastle are the most informed team in the league right now with these 5 wins on the bounce, you can see that Aston Villa are 4 wins on the bounce. So Aston Villa, the second most informed team in the Premier League right now. Both teams competing for those European spots. This is going to be a tough game for both of these teams, not just for Newcastle, not just for Aston Villa, for both. And I'm not really sure how this is going to play out, to be honest, but I can see goals from each of these teams, 2 strong attacks, in-form attacks that are doing really, really well right now. And Aston Villa, in particular, with no more Champions League football, they are going to have the priority set on the Premier League and trying to get a top 4 place. Against Newcastle and Man City, if they win both of these games, they are going to be back in a Champions League spot, which is really, really impressive stuff for them. So let's see what happens here, but I don't think that this Newcastle game is going to be easy for Newcastle against Villa, and vice versa. I think it's a tough game for both of these teams, and it's a pretty difficult one to call. But anyway, we've got the defenders on pitch right now. Let's have a look at the clean sheet odds. So this comes from Rob T on Twitter. Like I said, Arsenal with the best chances of clean sheets by some distance, actually. 68% chance of 1 or more clean sheet, which is really, really nice over the double game week. Man City in second with 49%. And I don't actually have a Man City defender right now. So let's come back to that one. Liverpool, 46% chance despite a single game week. So Connor Bradley, Virgil, or maybe Konate, if you have these players, you're going to have a good chance here. West Ham also in here. We'll come back to them. And of course, Crystal Palace at 35%. That's actually not too bad, and it's a little bit better than last game week as well. So Crystal Palace with a 35% chance of 1 clean sheet. That Bournemouth game really is useful for this double game week for the likes of Crystal Palace. And even Arsenal, they're not exactly an incredible attack right now. Maybe Saka can help improve that situation. Aston Villa are also on here, actually slightly below Crystal Palace for their clean sheet possibilities. We did mention that Villa have a really tough double against the likes of Newcastle and Man City. So that is going to be a little bit tough there. And you guys can kind of have a look at some of the other clean sheet odds here as well. But it really looks like Arsenal are by far the best team for defenders this week, followed by Man City, Liverpool, West Ham, and indeed Crystal Palace and Aston Villa are worth a mention as well over the double game week. So let's next move on into midfield. And we've got a few straightforward picks. First of all, Mo Salah, absolutely not been in great form right now, but Leicester have been in horrible form. So I do think Salah is still a really nice pick despite only a single game week. We've got Saka here as well. Now, I think we can talk a little bit more about Saka because obviously people are concerned about his minutes across the double game week. He has just played against Real Madrid just yesterday, and there's going to be 4 days between the Wednesday game and the Sunday game and in the Premier League for Saka. So let's have a look here. So the Arsenal fixtures that they have. So it's going to be Ipswich on Sunday, then 3 days later, it is going to be Crystal Palace on the Wednesday. And then 6 days after that, they play in the Champions League. Now, you can look at this in several different ways. My personal opinion, and this is, I guess, as an Arsenal fan as well, is that we want to see Saka's minutes built up. We want to see him getting in form. We want to see him building his match fitness more and more as each week goes by. And that's going to need some kind of minutes across the double game week. Now, the most likely scenario is that he is benched for the Ipswich game and then starts in the Crystal Palace game. However, I think there is still a significant chance that he starts in the Ipswich game as well. So he could get 2 starts. I think honestly, we're probably looking at around 110 minutes for Saka across the double game week. So maybe 30 against Ipswich, maybe 80 against Crystal Palace. But you never know. We could see another half-time substitution where he plays half a game against Ipswich and maybe 60, 70 20, again 18 minutes against Palace as well. Or alternatively, 60 minutes in each. That would be absolutely amazing for Saka if he can get that kind of those kind of minutes roughly for the double game week, because I think that is what he needs. And obviously, if he is on the pitch, if he is playing, you're always going to have a chance, whether that's a substitute appearance or not. If he is on the pitch, and you know, we saw this against for Aston Villa against Southampton last week. 3 substitutes came on and scored for Aston Villa. They had enough minutes to do some damage against a newly promoted team that were really sitting back the whole game. And, you know, those final few minutes can be crucial, and Saka can turn up in those. But he's been super creative, whipping in a lot of crosses, looking to cut inside and take shots, winning free kicks. And of course, even though he missed his penalty against Real Madrid, he is the penalty taker for Arsenal and will be looking to get some retribution. Of course, scoring against Real Madrid was pretty nice after the penalty miss as well. So, you know, if we look at the Real Madrid games, technically a goal there, missed penalty that could have been a goal. In the previous game, he created so much, won one of the free kicks that was scored by Declan Rice. So he was getting FPL points against Real Madrid. I'm certain he can do it against the likes of Ipswich and an out-of-form Crystal Palace that are conceding so many goals at the moment. So Saka looks like a really strong pick. Despite some concerns about his minutes, I truly believe that he will get enough minutes to justify him as an FPL pick. It's just a shame that his, I guess, games after that are not looking so hot. Bournemouth, there's a good chance he is rested for that one because that will be nestled between 2 Champions League games. And then after that, it's Liverpool for Arsenal as well. No chance of any more double game weeks for Arsenal either. So that is one concern if you're only just buying Saka now. But for the double game week, I think he is going to be a phenomenal FPL asset. Let's go to Marcus Rashford next. And he's a really interesting one right now. Some people were a little bit nervous on him before, but I have to say my confidence in him is growing. 5 starts in the last 6 games in all competitions for Marcus Rashford. And it seems like he genuinely is first choice for Aston Villa at this point. Like I mentioned, I do believe that the Premier League will be the first priority ahead of the FA Cup. Certainly for this game week, where Villa face 2 of their Champions League positional rivals. So Rashford, if he is one of Aston Villa's best players right now, and he certainly is. I mean, if we looked at the PSG game, for example, Rashford played, I believe, 76 minutes roughly, and he then was substituted off. The game really fell apart after Rashford was removed from the field because he was the best player on the pitch. He had an absolutely fantastic game of football. So I think he truly is the main man at Aston Villa right now. And what has helped as well is that Rashford can not only play in the central striker position, but also on the left wing position. So multiple positions he can play. He's going to be playing on the counter-attack as well, which is going to be super useful against the likes of Manchester City. And I think if I was an Ollie Watkins owner, I'd maybe be a little bit concerned that even though we are trying to predict the rotation, we're trying to look at the minutes and kind of guess who is going to start the next game, maybe some of that suggests that Watkins is going to start the next game, but Rashford is the guy. When you play you start 5 out of 6 games and you've got 2 crucial games to come up and you are performing so well, you have to kind of just say, this guy is the main man. He's going to play every game. We have no problem having this discussion about Rodgers and saying, you know, we think Rodgers is going to start every game. I think we might need to start putting some of that energy into Rashford. Now, I do think Rodgers' minutes are still a little bit better than Rashford's, but Rashford's explosivity, the fact that he is now confirmed as the penalty taker for Aston Villa as well, there are a few decent advantages for him against Newcastle, Manchester City, where I believe he would probably be one of the favourites to score in both of these games, to be perfectly honest. But let's move past him. Savinho is the next pick here, and unfortunately, it was revealed after last week's deadline that Savinho was carrying a little bit of an injury, and he wasn't quite ready to start in game week 32, but it was close against Crystal Palace. Apparently it was very tight whether he would be able to start or not. He was planned to start, according to rumours, but going into game week 33, you would imagine he is straight back into the team, particularly when we look at Savinho playing against 4 at the backs. It seems like Man City do like to play a slightly narrower system against 5 at the back formations, but both Everton and Aston Villa use a 4 at the back formation, which means that Savinho is going to come right back into this team if we're talking from a tactical perspective. He has been one of Man City's best players. Man City need to win the games, and even though his output has been questionable at times, his underlying data is really good and he looks magnificent whenever you watch him on a football pitch. So, like Savinho, It's difficult. I like this Bournemouth fixture a lot. On the counter-attack, I think Crystal Palace can do some damage despite some difficult results recently. Arsenal, similar situation. If Arsenal are going to concede to Crystal Palace, I think that Eze and Sarr are probably going to be two of the main threats on those wings on the counter-attack, and Arsenal will concede one of their one-shot per game goals. And if that's going to happen, Sarr is a very good candidate for that. I appreciate that obviously Sarr is playing up against my double Arsenal defense in the second fixture of the double game week, but that's just how double game weeks work, right? You can't have a double game week unless you are facing another double game week team. So if you want to maximize your double game week players, you are going to have players playing against each other. That's just kind of the game, the name of the game. And you're hedging your bets here, really. Are we going to get an Arsenal clean sheet, or are we going to get a Sarr goal? Or worst case scenario for me, maybe we get no Arsenal clean sheet, no Sarr goal, and perhaps an Eze haul instead. You don't know what's going to happen, but we can only go with some predictions here. And then moving up front, we've got Mateta. Now, this is a little bit concerning because we've seen his minutes reduced quite significantly recently. In fact, if we look at the minutes played tab here on the column on the FPL website, it gives you a really clear indication. 55 minutes against Newcastle, 45 minutes against Man City, and even against Brighton, 67, Southampton, 58. He has only got past the 60-minute mark once in the past 4 game weeks. That can't continue, surely. Surely, Mateta needs to stay on the pitch for a little bit longer. But maybe he's not fully fit right now, and that's why he is being maybe rested a little bit, particularly with yet another double game week to come, FA Cup the following weekend. There is a lot of football to be played right now, and Jean-Philippe Mateta has been suffering as a result of that. But a double game week player, Bournemouth is a nice fixture, Arsenal not so much, but if Arsenal give away another dodgy penalty, you would think after Eze's penalty last game week that maybe Mateta will step up and take the next one. So there you go, could be worse. And Marmoush is my final player in my starting 11, although on a bench boost, all of your players are starting players. Marmoush is a really nice, secure minutes guy, and he's clearly been in great form for Manchester City as well. Everton away is a tough fixture for an attacker, maybe better for a defender. Aston Villa have also been keeping some clean sheets recently. However, you do think Man City, with all the firepower they have at their disposal, the creativity of Kevin De Bruyne being kind of reintroduced and re-emerging as a really nice player and a really nice pick in FPL, you could see a little bit more opportunity for Marmoush. But does he need more opportunity? I don't know if he does, because he's had plenty so far and it's been unfortunate not to score more goals despite the fact he has been scoring them. But anyway, guys, let's move on to my bench next. We've got Areola against Southampton. If we remember, cast our minds back to the clean sheet odds for the likes of West Ham, they are the 4th best with a 40% chance of a clean sheet. Areola is making saves as well, so you know, if we get a nice 7-8 pointer here, more likely 7, then that's going to be a really, really nice bench boost score, particularly for a nice cheap bench goalkeeper. Alexander Isak is on my bench. I thought it was only fair, really, to start my double game week attackers and, of course, Salah in my starting 11 and really put Isak down as a secondary pick. But he's been anything but a secondary pick throughout this season, and in any single game week, Isak is going to be a starting man. So, yes, he's on my bench. I think he's probably maybe my 8th best attacker for this week because he doesn't have a double. But still, what a player, what a pick. You know, he's what, the 4th highest scorer in FPL this season. Really, really good stuff. Really impressive stuff. And even against a tough game like Aston Villa, you would put your money on him being one of the higher, most likely players to score in this game week generally. So there we go. A bench boost player we can all get behind. Konsa is on here as well. Not expecting clean sheets from him against these 2 difficult fixtures. But hey, in a double game week, you get double the chance of strange things happen. And you know what? Konsa did score in the Champions League as well. I don't usually consider him a goal-scoring defender, but like I said, double the chance of strange things happening. So you never know. Maybe some luck can finally come my way. And we've got Dan Burn here, and he's an interesting one. I'm sure a lot of people will be saying, Dan, you've got to sell Burn. Dan, Burn, sell. Burn. Get him. Dan, Burn from your team. I'm confusing myself now. But my issue with Burn is that there's not really any obvious replacements. People will talk about Connor Bradley maybe as a replacement, but yeah, Connor Bradley is maybe good for 1 game week against Leicester. Trent is already back in training. After that, Liverpool have some poor fixtures. I'm on a free hit in game week 34 anyway, and Trent's going to be back before game week 35, surely. probably back sooner than that, to be totally honest with you guys. So it's difficult for me to pick a player like Bradley, knowing that information. I'd be spending a transfer on a player I will only have for one game week. And given that we're going to maybe have doubles in 36, blanks in 37, transfers are going to be pretty valuable. We are going to be taking hits towards the end of the season, and I don't think moving Burn to Bradley or Wan-Bissaka or Ait-Nouri or whatever other single game week player you can think of is going to really be worth it for a hit. And I have to think it in terms of it being a hit, because if I spend this transfer, I'm probably going to have to take a hit later on in the season. So I have to treat it as a hit, I suppose. Of course, I could go for another Aston Villa defender here, potentially. But I look at these fixtures and I'm not really thrilled by these Aston Villa fixtures generally. So I'm going to be sticking with just 2 Aston Villa players for the double game week. I think that is going to be enough. Maybe if I was to add another one, then I guess, you know, we could go for Rodgers in midfield and then maybe, I don't know, Gvardiol in defense, something like that. Removing Savinho and then bringing in another Man City defender. Like, if I was on a free hit, maybe I'd do something like that. But I'm not. I don't want to spend a whole load of transfers to make luxury moves. So therefore, we're going to stick with what we've got on the bench here. I think this bench is going to be good enough. You know, we've got 3 players that look really good for the bench boost. The further player for an informed Newcastle team could get a clean sheet potentially here. You never know. I may as well just take the chance on that. Let's just circle back here to the clean sheet odds, because we do see Newcastle are pretty low here, 19% chance of a clean sheet, but it's not an impossibility. There is still a chance here, so you never know what might happen with Burn. But certainly, here's the player I have the lowest expectations of on my bench boost. The other guys look pretty good, as we can see from this list. On the other side, we don't have a Man City defender. So let's get the transfer done. We need to get that done. The strategy, the plan has not changed for me, not one bit, because I am going to be looking to move Trippier out for Gvardiol. This was always the plan. This was always what I was going to do. That's why I had Trippier as a placeholder player in my FPL team. And whilst a lot of people were putting, I guess, Murphy as a placeholder player, I decided to go Trippier as a placeholder player for Game Week 33. Yeah, wish I hadn't done that, but hey, question the decision, not the outcome. And I don't think the decision was really that bad. It was just a little bit of a differential play. But we'll continue with that trend. But yes, Gvardiol is in now, so we've got the second best defence covered for the double game week here as well in Manchester City, hoping for a clean sheet against the likes of Everton in the second game against, I guess, Aston Villa. Well, I'm hoping for Rashford to go crazy in that game, I suppose. But yeah, certainly against Everton, Gvardiol should be good for a clean sheet. And hopefully, if Kusanov can come back to the lineup in the near future, that's going to mean Gvardiol could even play at left back, a little bit further up the pitch, more creative, taking more shots on. I'm hoping that Kusanov is back soon, because that really does help Gvardiol a lot if he can play at left back. But I guess we'll see what happens there. But this is what my team looks like. We've got 11 double game week players, and the single game week players are Salah, Areola, Isak and Burn, who, considering I cannot come up with a replacement that I am confident in, I'm just going to stick with Burn. I don't want to force myself to make a transfer when there isn't actually anyone I like. I'll just save a transfer and roll that into game week 35, where I will have 2 transfers to spend with the brand new fresh information about doubles and blanks. When I have that information, then I can start spending some transfers on maximising double and blank game week players for game week 36, which of course we don't know about for sure yet, but by that point we will. Always good to save transfers for the times where you know you're going to have more information. Let's go over captaincy, guys. And I think I've probably spoken about most of what I want to say already on this one. I did kind of hype up Saka quite a lot and maybe undersell Marmoush a little bit. Now, that is just my opinion, of course. And, you know, in these 50-50 decisions, and I think this is close to being a 50-50 for me between Saka and Marmoush, go wrong more often than they go right. Let's be totally honest. So if I'm captaining Saka, and I am, come on, Arsenal after all, you guys should probably captain Marmoush. That's all I'm going to say on that one. I feel like I'm cursed this season. Although I have to say, I feel like my captain shouts have not been too bad this season generally. But yeah, outside of that, maybe a little cursed. So, yeah, I'm going for Saka. Would not blame you if you're going for Marmoush, but we spoke about both of those players already, so I don't think we need to go into detail again. I'm just kind of taking a chance on Saka getting more minutes, and I think certainly if we're looking for the higher upside pick, it is Saka. Saka has the higher points potential when compared to Marmoush, and when you're in my kind of situation, you really need to count on those higher upsides being realized rather than playing it safe. My time of playing it safe this season is long behind me. I can't do it anymore. This season is over for me anyway. It's boom or bust. Right now, it's looking like a bust, but at least have to try for the boom, right, guys? So this is what my team looks like on the Fantasy Football Hub My Team planning tool, and it's predicting me a pretty impressive 108.4 points for Game Week 33. And honestly, I would be disappointed in any less than 100 points for this big game week that I have been planning for with my bench boost. The bench boost looks like it could be okay, but what's this for the prediction on the bench boost? So that's 3.9 points for Areola, plus the burn, that is 7 predicted points there, plus Isak and Konsa, who have a combined 11. 18 points on a bench boost. That's pretty decent this season. I think a lot of people will be maybe really looking for something around that, or maybe even more. So yeah, it could be pretty decent there. Obviously in Game Week 34, I'm going to be using a free hit because look at the state of my team for Game Week 34. It's looking pretty bad. Game Week rating of 12%. Can you imagine anything so low? And of course, Game Week 35 will be back in business with 2 free transfers, more information, and hopefully be able to do some damage there. Guys, if you want to check out Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool and start planning your own team right away, do use the link in the description. I use this tool a lot for planning out videos and kind of trying to make suggestions for transfers and pathways of transfer moves, and of course paying in mind potential fixtures that are all built in, cooked in to the app and the website, so you can see who is likely to have doubles and blanks. Super useful. Check it out, link in the description if you want to. But let me know, guys, what you think of my team for Game Week 33. Am I cooks again, or do we look okay again, but we'll still probably get cooked anyway? I guess we'll have to wait and find out, but I like the look of my team. How many times have I said that this season, just before things go terribly wrong? It remains to be seen. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this one, drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Check out Fantasy Football Hub, and I'll see you tomorrow for a final decisions video. We'll be going over all of the final bits of news, information, and decisions ahead of the deadline. See you later, mates. Bye-bye.